Sorry about that, y'all. So again, thank you, Maria, for the introduction. I was just going to start off by introducing myself. My name is Cieara Simmons, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I was one of the interns this past year at the Women's Center on our campus. I'm currently a fourth year global health major. Right. And Fran, so introduce yourself.
Thank you, Maria and Sarah. So my name is Fran Bautista. I use she, they series pronouns. I am a rising fourth year in ERC, also a global health major, and then I have 2 minors in human rights and critical gender studies. I am returning community assistant for APIMEDA program and services.
Would y'all like to go through, since we kind of have a small group today, and I guess just introduce your own name, your preferred pronouns, and I guess a fun fact about yourself, or anything else you want to share?
I can pull this off. Yeah, okay, so my name is Roman. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Fun fact, I got a dog back in March when COVID started, so we've been raising a puppy.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Hi, my name is Melody. My pronouns are she, her, her. And a fun fact, I like to read a lot of books. So I'm a bookworm. Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
Well, right now I have a book series. I'm sorry, I just pulled it up. And it's like my 5th book in the series. And they're really interesting. And it's called Keeper of the Lost Cities. And yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Is anyone else comfortable sharing?
I can go ahead and present myself as well, since I just presented you all. So my name is Maria Vida. I go by the pronouns she, her, hers. My major is political science, and a fun fact about me is, like Melody, I like to read books, but in specific, I like to read autobiographies. So yeah.
Very cool.
Well, thank you all for sharing. We really appreciate it. And I think it helps just create more of like, you know, an open atmosphere, hopefully brighten up your day a little bit for this presentation. Another thing is just feel free if y'all have any questions to use the chat function. I don't really think I can see it, unfortunately, since I'm sharing my screen. So just also feel free to like raise your hand or like just interrupt if you have like a burning question, and then we'll do our best to answer it. And that said, we're going to get started. Okay. So this first slide is essentially just showing y'all pictures that date back to the 90s, right? Of just student activism, which is a large part that speaks on to why the centers were created, because students on our campus, even back then, felt like there was a need to call for representation of underrepresented groups on campus. So if you see the photo to, I guess, the bottom left, this is one of the murals that we have located. It's like in the middle of like Muir and Marshall. And it's basically commemorating Latinx history. And if you can kind of see, there's like a picture of Cesar Chavez and just different symbols and other activists in that community. And if you look, the top right corner, And downwards to that is just kind of pictures of programs that the different centers has held throughout the years, because that's a lot of the programming that centers will typically have in like a non-COVID situation, just kind of targeting a variety of issues that students are welcome to come to. So y'all are welcome to come to, of course. And yeah, this top left picture is just, again, protest students on our campus advocating for a variety of different social issues and really just demanding change to happen on our campus. So I think the center's part in that is trying to do our best to show up as a space for students to feel represented, and as their histories are important and matter on our large campus.
So there are 6 centers and then APIMEDA program and services, which is why it's called Campus Community Centers and Programs. So we'll start on that top left with the BRC, that's a Black Resource Center, Cross-Cultural Center, Raza, LGBT, Intertribal, then APIMEDA. It stands for Asian Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern, Bessie Americans. And then we have the Women's Center. So all of these community centers came out of student activism, and students had to demand for these spaces that reflected them and their cultural experiences within like the entire campus community. Many of these campuses across like the country have like centers and offices that have similar focuses, but this is why we have a highlight for ours. You want to go to the next slide?
Okay, so our campus community centers and programs believe that we are all grounded in the shared belief that ending one oppression requires ending all oppressions. As centers, together we facilitate interactive learning through our various programs and talks held throughout the centers on campus. Promote self-awareness, specifically at the Women's Center. There are guiding principles that lead the feminist work that takes place in the center. And the centers also have other guiding principles they follow as well. We try to foster leadership development in our volunteer programs and internship programs, and encourage dialogue with our peers and also the larger San Diego community about different social justice issues that impact us all, and challenge traditional notions of diversity in our communities. Finally, throughout these partnerships, we build, I'm sorry, I cannot see the last one, I apologize, y'all. We build and sustain a socially, could you read that last part for me, Fran?
Socially just campus climate.
Thank you. Very important.
So at the centers, all of them provide these services. Just to read off a few that we talked about. We talked about internships and employment. So Cieara and I have worked as students within these spaces to create opportunities, for community. There's also really good study and nap spaces. I love using the centers, when we're in person to just study or take a nap. School is very long. Free food is very real as well. And there's also a lot of volunteer opportunities. So if you're just want to like dip your toe in and see how it is to be more involved in campus, I would really recommend volunteering. I started by volunteering in a few centers myself before moving into like an internship. And so I'd really like to highlight those. It's really a good experience, especially if you're not used to talking about culture and like identity.
So at the Women's Center, a few of our programs, like kind of a major programs, include Gender Buffet, which is a program that typically we try to focus on a different social justice topic every week, or any other like large social topic, I guess, that talks about the media. Recently, our interns did a program about the Black Lives Matter protest and the movement. Another one is STEMternship Network that provides tutoring and math and other STEM courses for free for undergraduate students at our university. Typically, they're held at the Women's Center, provided by Summer Bridge Tutors. Oasis Tutors. And the Voices Leadership Program, which is a feminist leadership program that students are kind of in a cohort together, and they learn different feminist techniques and just about the history and ways to activate themselves and their communities in that group. And what's currently going on is the Women's Writing History program that focuses on a topic every day that people are able to partake in by journaling. So if you want to check it out, visit UCSDWC Journal, or even just our Instagram as it is right here, UCSDWC. And we're also available on Facebook, Twitter, and of course through email on our website. And I think specifically for the Women's Center, but also other campus community centers, I highly recommend checking out their social media, because we're still trying to host virtual programs to connect y'all to the space and the community. So just because of COVID doesn't mean that you can't find ways to get involved and interact.
Nice. So the LGBT Resource Center, it serves LGBTQIA+ folks on campus. They have a lot of different student orgs that are identity-based. So if you ever want to be, I think one of my favorite ones is it's called MIAC, Multi-Identity Art Collective, I believe. And it's a bunch of artists who get together like every week, and they're just queer folks who are talking about art, and I think it's really great. I'm not an artist, so I've never like gone myself, but I feel like it's a really good space. They also have different ones like Beyond Binaries. They have another one's called Queer and Asian. Those are some of the student orgs that are made by students for students. It's to help, because LGBT is such a big umbrella, so it helps to just give like a smaller space for some people who might be overwhelmed. A big part of why I like the LGBT Resource Center is because they have a big emphasis on confidentiality. So whatever happens in the center stays there. And I know a lot of LGBT folks are not out to their overall community. So this provides a safe space for them to just be without any worries. A lot of their great programs are World's AIDS Day. They do a lot of great like advertising for that. They get the whole college community involved. It's really great around that time of the year. Usually you'd see it around fall. I'm not sure how it'll look virtually this year, but you'll definitely see a lot of our social media pop in about World AIDS Day, because it's a very important issue, not just for LGBT folks, but for everybody. Out and Proud series happens in spring, in April, and it's a really great like week/month for everyone to just learn more. And they do a lot of really great programming there. If you're ever interested in any of this, I started off as a volunteer here in LGBT. I was in their social justice peer educator program. You can join any year, but it's really good if you start early. You can learn a lot about like gender and pronouns, and certain spaces on campus will ask for volunteers, and that could be you leading a presentation, teaching your fellow peers or even staff about gender pronouns. So there's that as well.
So up next, one of the centers that was created fairly recently is the Black Resource Center on our campus in I think the Student Services Center, also known in some cases as the Old Student Center. And a few of the programs include the Black Student Success Institute, the Peer Guidance Program, which I was actually a part of, which is really great way to connect with your older peers in the community. It's kind of like a peer-to-peer mentorship program in a sense. The Black and series. And there also is a Black graduation ceremony held every year for Black identifying folks. In addition, the community center is just a really great place to learn more about Black history historically, but also just the history of Black students on our campus. A really big reason as to why the need for the center was, the center's creation was because of Black Winter and just the events that happen throughout the Gone to Cookout for school. If you don't know what it is, I highly encourage you to research a little bit more about it. But the Black Resource Center continues to do things that really promote access and community on our campus. So check it out. Oh, and they also offer free printing to folks, but just don't go there for that.
So the Cross Cultural Center is based on engaging folks in social justice related to cultural identity. So it's basically about like being people of color, getting them into a coalition of students, you know, of organizations and other students, and then bringing together all of those people. And that's what kind of came to rise for the center itself. A lot of, if you ever go on like ccc.ucc.edu, you can see that there's a whole like page just for who's affiliated with the Cross, because they do a lot of social justice and cultural work. A lot of the cultural orgs have teamed up with the center to make sure that students are aware of them, to provide access and space. So there's just a lot of like great things on there. It's located in Price Center. If we ever go like in person, hopefully I'll be able to see it. It's one of my favorite spaces on campus, honestly, because they do a lot of facilitating like trainings, dialogues, and workshops for not just students, but staff and faculty on social justice in general. I really like that so it's mentioned here, the art gallery. I wish I had pictures of it. They've done an amazing job at putting these art galleries on virtual. I think it's really great because, you know, when you think of an art gallery, you think of like walking to a room and like taking your time in each one, but they've been able to make it a virtual option so that it's more accessible to everybody as well. Another thing I like to highlight is the Social Justice Leadership Program. They just recently made it into a credit-bearing class. Basically, when I took it, because I took it right before they made it credit-bearing, you would meet up with a cohort about every 2 weeks. You would lead in discussions about readings, about social justice issues, and then you would at the end present on like a topic of choice. So you would build upon the theories and the foundations you've learned about. So if you're actually curious about what social justice even is, like if you're not really sure how to define it, I would recommend checking out this space and maybe taking part in the leadership program. I guarantee that we'll definitely learn something from it.
Up next, we have the Raza Resource Centro, which was also created around the same time as the Black Resource Center. They also, like most of the centers, have a really great internship program as well as volunteer program in order to get more acclimated with the center. And it's located next to the Presby, across the street from the Presby Music Center, which is also kind of in the student services complex where like you would find financial aid and things like that. In addition to having a really great community space, they all do offer programs like Avanzado Juntos, student research, and their conference program. Again, their volunteer programs, learning specialists in STEM and social justice, Dia de los Muertos celebrations, and Chicanx and Latinx graduation. Sorry if I said that wrong, y'all. But yeah, if there's anything else that y'all would like to learn more about, we highly recommend going on their social medias, their websites, and even emailing the center because all the staff are still working remotely this summer.
Thanks for that point, Elizabeth, in the chat. A lot of these centers do have free printing for all students, and that's really important. On Intertribal, so this is the center that supports Native American students. Their like mission is to create a supportive environment for Native American students through like community development, academic support, and cultural engagement. They are the newest of the centers to have a fully like staff person, because it used to just be like staff, student staff run, but then now they have like a full-time position, which is really great. So what they do is they, like the way that I've seen Intertribal, I think it's a great resource, is that they do a lot of recruitment of Native Americans to come to UCC and then connecting that community with UCSC as well, because San Diego County has the most reservations per county in the entire US. So there's a lot of community work there. I think what's really great is that there's Native American Heritage Month. California celebrates that in November, so you'll be able to see that coming up soon. I think it's really great to learn more about like the land that UCSD specifically is built on, but also like if you're from California, you know, the state and the land that we take up. They do a lot of really great outreach to local tribal communities, so they're very in touch, keeping UCSD students and the campus in connection with the community outside. And if you're interested in any of this, they definitely, I would say check out their social media. They're really great at that. And I really like that every year they have this annual spring powwow. It's like their annual celebration. They somehow made it virtual this year as well. And it was really great to see everyone still in a celebratory mood despite everything going on. So there's that.
And also to add on, the community centers do offer different scholarships for people who belong to those communities. And I think for the Raza Resource Centro, they read for the Cesar Chavez Scholarship. And they also have a really cool like scholarship ceremony for the winners. And it's like this huge lunch. And they also have a similar scholarship at the Intertribal Center, the Black Resource Center, and the Women's Center, but I believe it's only for graduating seniors. But yeah, also feel free to check those out and see what you ought to do if you're passionate about writing and want to win a scholarship.
This brings us to our last center/program of services. So APIMEDA is where I'm currently a community assistant at. A lot of people, when they think of APIMEDA, they just think Asian, but no, we serve a really wide range of students. So it's about Asian, Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern, SA Americans. We do a lot of community and coalition building to ensure that these students have a space on campus, especially with a lot of international students. It can be hard to find your identity. I identify as Asian American as well, so I don't particularly have the same experiences as like my American born folks, but also as an international. So it's a really good blend of like experiences. A lot of our, I would say, even if you're not APIMEDA identified, I would definitely highlight our life book. It's a resource that students and faculty asked for. They wanted a resource guide that would help students better navigate campus. And so we made a life book to help you out with that. You don't have to be APIMEDA identified to look at it. We won't know if you take our life book or on the website, you take a look at it. It doesn't matter. Like it's meant for all students to use. There's a lot of really good tips on how to navigate campus as well, like what the resources are on campus, even like best food tips, that's in there as well. There's also a lot of past and current student reviews. So some of the questions can be like, why did you choose your major? And we have a couple student answers for that. So it's a more personal experience, and I would really encourage you all to check it out. I think that's something that's really interesting for everybody. Other programs in here are Discovering Your Career Compass. So we have workshops to help students connect with their academic and career goals. We bring out some of the Career Center counselors. We bring out some current faculty, and we provide some like exploration development around like, what are you trying to do with your life? Like discussion wise, not like, all right, like, you know, you want to be a doctor, but it's more like, how are your current interests guiding you to where you want to go? So I felt like it really helped me out figure out what I want to do with life. So if you're thinking about that, because I know a lot of our incoming students are very ahead, definitely check out a workshop. It might help you out a little bit more. And then I would also like to say that we also have community time. It's not on this slide, but it's an ongoing weekly program we have throughout the quarter. It's just a space for students to gather around and just become a community. Since we don't have an actual like center, we have to like, you know, make like these weekly meetings, and it's great. We do study groups. Sometimes we do like art time. I learned to paint in these community times. I'm not a great drawer, but it worked out great. And it's really good to have a safe space for that. Sometimes it can even be like just networking with faculty and staff. So it's really a good time to just explore like what it is to be like an APIMEDA student, but also be on college campus. You can find out a lot of things in just spending an hour with somebody. So I think those are really great things.
Mm-hmm. Right. And nearing to the end, as we said, like there's still ways to get involved with the centers even in this virtual world. For example, at the Women's Center, a program happening Next week is a conversation about medical biases. So there's ways to interact on the Instagram to view that program, or even just infographics related to the program with very important information on there about how medical biases impact, racial medical biases impact communities we identify with and other communities. And just other ways that y'all can get more involved with your favorite centers is subscribe to their mailing list, visit their websites, and there's also the website on the next slide where you could go to find information about all the resource centers if you don't know exactly how to find their website specifically. Engage with their social media, which also would be listed on their individual websites. Attend their programs. Everyone's doing some kind of virtual outreach during these times, and may have some downtime. Even if you don't, still like a post, learn something new. Volunteer. We actually do have a few summer volunteers at the Women's Center, and others centers may be doing the same thing. So it doesn't hurt to ask and just reach out to them. Even throughout the year, it's a really great way to get involved with the center and also the community. And last thing, reach out to the staff. They can schedule virtual meetings to get to know a little bit more about you and your interest, and to provide support and information on the programs coming up. And there's also just other passive programming that a lot of the centers engage in. So even if you're not able to make a program happening at a certain time, there's always ways to learn about what you missed or what you're interested in.
I would definitely highlight, make sure, like if you really like a program, like definitely like attend, or at least let the centers know. Like it's really hard to gauge what students are interested in. And if no one shows up to like a program, we won't know if you all are interested in that. If no one shows up, then we think, oh, you know, like no one's interested. But if you just couldn't make it because of like a time constraint, and we would like to know that. We're trying to make these programs for your enrichment, but also for your interest. So definitely like engage with these centers. They're here for your benefit. I would just take advantage of it.
That's a good point, Fran. Thank you. And if y'all haven't, fill out your census, because that's also important. Today preferably. All right. And this is the last slide. So again, this is the website that kind of has information about all the community centers on campus. If y'all have any questions, this would be the best time to ask them. Yeah, and if we'll do our best to answer all your questions. If not, that's okay too.
I actually have a question. So, I don't know how to phrase this. Are there resources, like, do you have to join their programs in order to like go see and like be part of their celebrations and stuff, and their activities?
I mean, I can speak for my experiences to that. It's not really like, in a sense, the students are joining the center because it's not a club, it's more of like a resource center, and you can frequent it as many times as you would like, or many times that you don't like, but that doesn't like directly correlate to what you cannot get involved in. Because the programs are open to everyone. For example, a lot of the questions we get sometimes are like, can I go into the women's center if I don't identify as like a woman or like femme? And it's like, yes, you can go. The resource centers don't discriminate against race, religion, I can't remember the last one, sexual orientation, any of that. So utilize these centers because they are for y'all. Our student fees help pay for them. And yeah, so say that it's your first time going to the center in your fourth year and you want to participate in a program or like a grad situation. I don't really think that you would be turned away. Yeah, but did I answer your question, Melody?
Yeah, like for a second I thought they were like clubs. Like I was like,
oh.
And I understand.
No worries. Yeah. On that note, like for instance, for the example I'd like to give is that at the LGBTRC, you know, we keep it confidential, so no one's going to be asking like, oh, are you LGBT? It's like kind of just like are free to use the space however you feel like. In regards to like going to events, I've attended the Black Scholarship like receptions, and they're great. It's such a great space to be in. I'm really proud to like honor my fellow Black people of color. Even though I don't identify as that, I can still like be in solidarity. So I would say definitely like go out to as many as you like.
Exactly. Like I've also been to the Native American, the Intertribal Resource Center's like scholarship brunch. It was amazing. Like they had really great, I think it was like a Native American bread. But again, like there's so many different ways to get involved in like the different communities and their centers. And everyone's very welcoming, and you shouldn't have a problem at any of the centers you visit. Have any other questions? That was a great question, by the way, Melody. Thank you.
I also have another question. I'm sorry. When are the resource centers gonna reopen in the fall too, or is everything gonna stay virtual?
That's a question that, to be honest, the centers don't really know of themselves. Like, you know, everything with COVID is kind of like, you know, we learn as we go kind of basis. But I think the best way is just to keep in contact and keep up to date with the campus, like notifications. And if there is any other questions you have beyond that, I would say try to contact your college and see if they know anything. But yeah, like we all are just kind of playing it ear by ear. But if there's anything in particular that you need from a center or like want to inquire about, there are ways to get in contact with them. So we definitely recommend taking that route.
Are there any more questions?
I'm just not reading the chat. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I don't want to pronounce your name. I don't want to butcher it. But I see that you said that your camera and your mic didn't work, but thank you for still like participating in the introduction. And thanks, Liz, for that fact. It's very true. There's also other resources, like there's a library in the Women's Center and gender neutral restrooms available with showers, to my knowledge, in the LGBT Center and in the Women's Center.
Yes.
And yeah, community hours when campus hopefully is open, kind of like you mentioned, Fran.
Well, if there's anything else, thank you all for coming. It was really great to talk to some of y'all, to hear from you. Good luck with the rest of your summer. And if you ever need to reach out, definitely feel free to reach out to any of us. Our contact information is floating around somewhere, or you can always talk to any of the centers. You know where to find them. You can literally just UCSD Google like the center you want, and their information will come up as well.
Yes, thanks, Fran.
Thank you, Cieara, Maria, and Miss
Sarah.
Ruiz. Y'all are great.
We're Liz for like helping us out. Yeah. Alrighty. Is this okay? Should we stay on a little bit